I'm going to try this. And if I fail, it's not going to be like the failure it was years ago where I was in the worst place of my life. Now it's just a small step down. And guess what? There's a lesson in it. So if I fail, I'm going to learn something really valuable and I'll never make that mistake again, but it's going to push me to try harder. So I always encourage people, shoot for the moon, because if you fail, that's not a failure. It's propelling you to go a different direction, or it's teaching you a lesson. So try it, because I never want to have regret. I never want to think, what if in my life? So when I eventually die, I want to be sitting there on my way to heaven going, that was a wild ride. I did everything I wanted to. Not everything worked out, but I have no regrets.
Here we are back with another episode of the Unstoppable Mindset Podcast. I'm really excited to have Whitney Jones joining me today. I get to interview Whitney Jones. She's a 3-time Ms.Olympia, full-time mother of 2 grown boys who are getting ready to go to college, right? We'll talk about that. And honestly, somebody who I'm considering a friend. I've got to know Whitney over the last couple of months, and she's an amazing human being. Like she had me doing somersaults and plyo push-ups last time we worked out. She's super athletic, but just like a really down-to-earth and amazing person, honestly. So Whitney, thank you so much for being here. I can't wait to just ask you a bunch of questions and get to know more about you and your journey that you've been on. So welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited. Yeah. And you know what? I have to give you massive props, because most people, I try to dare a lot of people to do a lot of the dumb shit that I do because I think it's fun, but within reason. Like I would never ask you to do something if I didn't think you were capable, but so many people back down. But I knew you of all people would not. And then more importantly, you totally impressed me. I was like, well, damn, the hell, you busted out those push flies instantly. Like, and you were game. I'm like, this is badass. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, you got to try everything, right? Honestly, I looked at the replay, though. I got to be able to get my arms straight and get elevated more. So I got to practice. Next time we're in Arizona working out, or if you come to California, I'll have them down a little bit, you know?
Definitely.
But so you have an incredible title. Like not a lot of people have the accolades that you do. 3-time Ms.Olympia. Does anybody have a 3-time Ms.Olympia?
Yeah, they do. So obviously, I'm in the fitness division. So for anyone who doesn't know the industry, it's bodybuilding. It's in the bodybuilding umbrella. So, you know, the easiest person to relate to is Arnold Schwarzenegger. He actually won this title multiple times, 7 times. And I'm in that realm, but I'm in the fitness division where you do the flips, the jumps. I don't get on stage and flex. They do judge your physique. You have to be in shape. So that is part of my score, but most of my score, 2/3, is based on a routine that you can put together. It can be anything you want. You have some mandatory moves, like mandatory skills, but otherwise you get to do whatever you want in regards to flipping, jumping, dancing. I do break dancing. So, I mean, those are some different areas that like I've been able to enjoy. But there's 7, how many different divisions now? Because there's now wellness. They're coming out with classic physique. So there's tons of different divisions, but mine is specific. So there are some champions that have more than just 3, but it's being number 1 in the world because it's a worldwide competition to qualify to compete at the Olympia. So it's a very prestigious title. And if you're really good, like if you've mastered the craft, if you've only won 1, you're kind of like, oh, did that person get lucky? Or could they not like handle the pressure to come back and regain that title? So there is a lot of power to say that you are a repeat winner. That's where it kind of goes, oh, okay, this wasn't just a lucky shot, one and done. Like you've walked the walk, talked the talk, you've gone in, you took that pressure as a champ and said, I want it again. And then for me, I want it again. So, you know, and that's when you want it and you are willing to work hard and do whatever it takes. That's truly kind of what makes that championship mindset. So, I went into this sport out of a dare. So it's not like this was my lifelong dream. And to be honest, I get shit for being honest about that a lot because there's some people who from their very early beginnings in life, this was their life's dream. that wasn't mine. I mean, I got started at 35. So it's
Wow.
kind of like this wasn't something that I ever thought was going to happen. Now, once I started learning the industry and I started winning shows and then qualified, I became a pro. I thought, what does this mean? And what do I want to do with it? But for me, it was always a personal challenge. I wasn't worried about the outcome. I never had cared about the result. So, yes, I wanted to win, but I wanted to win knowing I gave everything every day to my prep, put in all the hard work, all the sacrifice. Not every day went as planned. I'm a single mother. At that time, owned 5 businesses during this whole process. I had a lot on my plate. So not every day went the way it was supposed to. And I was far from the typical athlete in our sport because this wasn't the only thing I had in my life. So I was okay just going in knowing I gave it my all. But I think for me personally, that's why I was a champion. That's why I was able to win, because I just focused on me. I didn't care about the competition. I didn't care what anyone else was doing. I cared about what I was doing. I stayed in my lane. I stayed focused on me. I wanted to present the best routine I could possibly do. If the judges liked it, great. If they didn't, so be it. So, I went in trying to impress myself and surprise myself. And that's how I continued to be a champion. And that sounds maybe kind of silly, but I was never focused on I must win, because I did have one year in my career where I was focused on winning. That was the year I did the worst.
Wow. Well, I want to stop you right there because that's super interesting. I feel like sometimes obviously you want to focus on your goals, but you can over focus to the point where it affects your performance. And this is in any area of life, right? There's like the letting go technique where you do your best to prepare yourself for the event or the competition, whatever it is, and kind of just surrender to the outcome a little bit, And I think that's really important. That's like sports psychology right there. But what you said, 2 things you said that I love. You were more into doing the work to the best of your ability, and that was your sole focus. Like, you didn't care about the other competitors, all this stuff. Your joy or gratitude or like your results were based on how you showed up. Like, if you gave your all every day and you were doing everything in your power to be your best, that was like the epitome of success for you. And I think a lot of people who are champions in sports, competitors in business, whatever it is, they have that. They're more concerned about doing the right thing so that they can sleep at night, so they know they're giving their all in life, versus getting that trophy or that reward. And then by default, a lot of times they're successful, right?
Yeah.
And so when you fall in love with the process and you do what you do because you want to be the best, you continuously progress. And you don't get as daunted by what other people say are obstacles in your path, right? I think that's the key facet of people who have a winner's mindset in life. So thank you for sharing that. And I'm interested. So you were 35 when you started competing, which is crazy. And I thought, a Ms.Olympia or just bodybuilding in general, I thought it was just like posing. I thought it was being fit. I thought it was monitoring nutrition, tracking, just getting really lean. I had no idea they even had the division that you won all 3 of your Olympias in, So what were you doing before that? Were you in gymnastics, or were you like an athlete growing up? Can you tell us about just your athletic background overall?
Yeah. So believe it or not, I have 0 gymnastics experience, which is kind of a prerequisite for anyone in my category, which is why I thought this will be probably one and done. So I have none. But I have been an athlete all my life. So I grew up with 2 older brothers. I was the youngest of 3 kids. And, growing up, both parents were working nonstop. My older brother always was in babysitting mode, and we just had to entertain ourselves. So we used to just do crazy stuff all the time at the park. We were always just moving and active. And for me, I loved sports. I loved any sport my parents would allow me to play. So soccer, basketball, softball, track. I did do cheerleading because they wouldn't let me play football. Back then, girls weren't allowed to. And of course, I had 2 older brothers. I wanted to be just like my older brothers. So the one thing that I would say correlated with fitness would probably be cheerleading. But back then, all you did was have pom-poms and, hey, go team, go team. There was no real gymnastic side that you see in cheerleading now. But being able to play all these sports, like when I grew up, it was YMCA. So there was none of these like club sports, or you just signed up for the free stuff at school or the YMCA, which was $15 a season where we lived. So my parents let us play any sport. So it was always just whatever I could do. But that's what was great, is it kind of helped create this well-rounded athlete that I ended up becoming. And then, in high school, I ended up doing cheerleading, which helped just to have that ability to perform and not be self-conscious. I took like tap and dance when I was 5 and 6, but no other dance training. I just don't really care. And so you turn music on and I'm like, oh yeah, So for athletes in our division, it definitely helps if you have the technique and the training. But if you have the ability to enjoy performing and enjoy a challenge, then it's the perfect fit for you. Like me going into the gym and just working out, it's kind of like, I would get bored, because if it's too monotonous for too long, I needed to find ways to be creative. So I actually didn't even lift in a gym regularly until later in my life. I mean, even after high school, college, I got into endurance events. So marathon training, triathlons, and I did that as a way to be fit. And then I realized, wait, the body type I see in magazines, they don't look like I do, but I didn't have the nutrition background. I wasn't eating enough. I was tearing down all my muscles. So I ended up going, I'll try something else. And that's what ended up getting me into the sport I'm now, fitness competitions. And it was, like I said, it was out of a dare. Sadly, I'm a type of person that if you tell me I can't do something or you challenge me, that lights a fire. And I'm like, really? I'm going to show you I can. So for me, that's what got me into the sport. Someone said, there's no way you'd be good at this. And I honestly had no idea what they were talking about. I thought, yeah, I will. And I'm like, wait, what am I agreeing to do? And then come to find out it was a fitness competition. And I'm like, oh, wow. Okay, let me figure this out. And long story short, I liked it and thought, I'll just do this. And at that time they had YouTube. So I'd see these tricks, and I'm a bit of a daredevil, and just started kind of creating my own vibe, my own style of performance. And it was unlike people had seen, because again, I wasn't the standard athlete. I didn't have the standard training. So even backflips, a simple backflip, I do it very different than the standard person because I wasn't trained how to do it. So everything looked a little different. And to be honest, I didn't want to be like everyone else. I thought, if I'm doing this, I want to be like totally different. So I happened to see something breakdancing wise. And I used to love to try to breakdance when I was younger. So I thought, I'm going to bring breakdancing to the IFBB stage and just try it. And so I brought something different that people hadn't seen. I couldn't do what the other girls were doing. So why try? I thought, I'm going to create this persona of a fitness athlete in whatever way I want, because I'm not at their level. I can't do the stuff that they can do, but I might as well try to be different and then master it. So that's kind of how I got in and started really getting some traction early, winning, leveling, going up to the next level and the next level. And I thought, oh shit, what do I do now? Because I didn't expect this. But again, it teaches you, do things you enjoy. I didn't enjoy what the other girls were doing skill wise. So if I want to do something for me, I'm going to make it fun. So I started focusing on the stuff I enjoyed. And I liked doing stuff that no one was doing, or coming up with crazy cattywampus flips that aren't even really tricks, but creating them. And so that's where it was interesting for me to go, this is fun because I get to be who I want. And again, I didn't care if the judges were like, we've never seen this before, and there's a reason why. Then okay, fine. That's what they think. Would I have stopped it? Probably not. Because my goal wasn't to win. My goal was to have fun, have fitness goals that keep me accountable, challenge me. And if the judges don't like it and I get last place, so be it. Whatever. Was I excited? Yeah, cool.
I love your attitude. There's two things I want to touch on here. The first is that you were so open-minded and willing to just get into this, this dare. And it
Yeah.
turned out to be something life-changing. I think a lot of times people just say no to things so often that they don't realize how many doors they're closing in their lives for future opportunities. I
Yeah.
remember a long time ago, I was in a place in my life where I just really was unhappy and I wasn't doing anything that felt like it was positive. I had no purpose. And I saw that movie, Yes Man, with Jim Carrey. Have you ever seen it?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that movie, I remember when I was watching it, I was like, man, I got to be like that in life. There was just something stirring inside of me that I wanted to do or explore. And I was just so close-minded back then. So I think a lot of people struggle with that. And that takes me to my next point. I want to ask you this, like, you had so much confidence and belief in yourself that you were willing to put yourself out there. I think a lot of people are scared to do that because they don't want to look like a fool or fail. They're so worried about judgment. And you were the exact opposite. You're like, screw it. What's the worst that could happen? But you also, it sounds like deep down inside, you believed in yourself enough to really take it seriously and to give your best effort. And that is life-changing. People with confidence and self-belief, they're more likely to be open-minded and willing to try things, right?
Yeah.
Where do you think you personally got that? Because it sounds like that was a huge factor in you getting to where you're at now in your life.
Well, gosh, to be honest, I feel like right in my early 30s, late 20s, there was just a lot of life changes. So it's like you're raised, where I grew up, everyone just does, it's, middle class. Everyone just has both parents work and you go to school. Sometimes you go to college if you're lucky. You get a job, you have kids, you raise your family, you nickel and dime everything. That's just the way of life. So that's what I grew up seeing. And just that was kind of what I thought was amazing. Because again, I was lucky enough to have two amazing parents who loved me. They were at least able to provide the house and, help me do a lot of basic things. But then by the time we were in high school, it's like, you got to find a way to make your own money. You got to contribute, but those things helped. But again, you just had this lifestyle of you just kind of shoot for middle of the road, which I did. It was never a thought of, what would you want to be if you could be anything in the world? Because that just wasn't reality. You got to pay bills, right? And you got to have kids and you got to raise those kids. And, so it was just this ceiling of thought. Well, life happens. Unfortunately, I lost my mom to cancer very quickly, early, right after I had both of my boys. My two boys were very young. And that was, for me, life changed. She was my best friend, my role model. My whole world was shattered. Now, granted, I'm not the only person to lose a loved one. So I knew it wasn't the end of the road. Shortly after that, my husband and I divorced. It was a very bad situation. I found out some awful things. So here, my pillar of my life just passed away. And my dad and my brothers and I were all just in this horrible place. Then I find out, all this stuff about my husband, who's supposed to be my rock, and life went downhill there. And then within, again, 2 months of that, one of my business partners was doing a bunch of horrible things and pulling money. So here my work life was totally disrupted. My family life at home was totally disrupted. And my best friend and the person I leaned on is no longer there. So, all of that happening in such a short period of time was going to ruin me. And I realized, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Like, I'm either going to crumble, and I'm now responsible for two little boys who need me to be this role model and this pillar of strength, and I'm far from. And so it was like, okay, now's the shot to I've got to be something, and I have nothing holding me back. Like, the life I thought was my path is no longer. So it was like this moment of going, I'm either going to stay in this horrible spot and this will define me and I'm going to ruin my two boys' lives by being this train wreck of a mom, or I can choose to not let this define me and be everything opposite of what typically would happen in that situation. And it became this drive to be like, I'm going to do it and nothing's going to stop me. No one's going to tell me I can't do anything. I'm not listening to any of the stereotypical stuff on this is what your life needs to be. I'm redefining out all of it. So as awful as those things were, it was what literally propelled me to go, I will be unstoppable. Nothing will hold me back. I don't care how bad it is. I am going to learn from failures, because you look at my family life just failed. My first business was at risk of failing. My confidence and my pillar of strength is no longer there. I'm now crumbling. So I was failing. But I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to. So that moment of going, pick yourself up, and knowing that I had two little guys relying on me was probably the best thing, because it wasn't about me. It was more focused on, I'm responsible for their life at this point, and I'm either going to create so much trauma in their life, or I'm going to shield them from the negative and raise them to be, unstoppable humans as well. And as cliche as that sounds, that was my mindset.
Yeah.
So with that, I never had a fear of failure, because in my mind, I had just failed at everything all at the same time. And I was working my way up to not ever fail again and to learn from it all. So to me, it was like, I'm going to try this. And if I fail, it's not going to be like the failure it was years ago, where I was in the worst place of my life. Now it's just a small step down. And guess what? There's a lesson in it. So if I fail, I'm going to learn something really valuable, and I'll never make that mistake again, but it's going to push me to try harder. So I always encourage people, shoot for the moon, because if you fail, that's not a failure. It's propelling you to go a different direction, or it's teaching you a lesson. So try it, because I never want to have regret. I never want to think, what if in my life? So when I eventually die, I want to be sitting there on my way to heaven going, that was a wild ride. I did everything I wanted to. Not everything worked out, but I have no regrets.
I love that so much. You're literally just giving away like the blueprint for how to become a champion in life in anything you do. No, it's the mindset. I mean, honestly, I feel like you're reading my own mind and beliefs, because so many people look at a failed attempt or something that doesn't go your way, or gosh, a divorce or losing your mother. Like, these are things that we dread. And my history and background, like I went through some tough times. And we look at those and we think, oh gosh, that poor woman or that poor man, or oh my gosh, how are they going to come back from that? But that's actually what builds you up into a stronger person. And if you can have the mindset you did, where you're like, I'm not going to let this beat me. You got pissed off a little bit. You're like, I'm going to show the whole world who I am. It's so powerful, because look at the catalyst that became for where you're at now. And probably having your boys gave you that strong why and reason to fight even more. You know what I mean? Like, you're like, I'm not going to let them down. I'm going to show them how strong I am. And I admire you so much for that, because a lot of people would have let that ruin them, and they would have turned to alcohol or drugs or some way to try to numb themselves, but you're literally, everything you're saying, if anybody's watching this or listening and you want to know how to become a better version of yourself and how to get through anything, it's literally do things every day that make you proud of who you are, so you have that sense of confidence and belief in yourself, and then be open-minded to try things, because that's how you actually grow. That's how you get to experience life. No one wants to look back at the end of their life and go, I'm so glad I said no to all those things and I stayed in my little comfort zone.
Yeah.
All those people are going to look back and go, why didn't I try more? Like, my life just passed me by. Why didn't I do more things? Why didn't I learn new languages, read more books, build more relationships? Like, so I love that so much. And the coolest thing is, you were 35 when you got into, do you call it just, I guess, bodybuilding, or what would you refer to it? Yeah.
I call it fitness competitions, because that's exactly what it is for me.
Yeah.
Whereas if you say bodybuilding, everyone goes, oh yeah, you flex. And to be honest, I think we joked, I just learned how to flex like a couple years ago, because people always are like, take a photo and flex. And I was that awkward girl being like, and like, it, but then you look at the photo and my arm was always like out here. So I'm still learning, but yeah, like, I don't flex. But when you say bodybuilding, that's where everyone's mind goes, because they don't realize there's other divisions. So yeah, so I always just say fitness competitions.
I like that more too. I mean, you're an athlete. I've seen you in person. I've seen your performances and stuff that you've done to win your Olympia titles. It's incredible. Like, it's not easy. A lot of people can't even come close to doing what you do. So I love that. But for anyone listening to this, if you're in your 30s or late 20s or even beyond 35, you can redefine yourself and rebuild your life at any age. I was almost 30 when I got out of prison and rebuilt my life. Whitney was 35 when she got into her sports competitions, her fitness competitions. So it just shows you, like, it's your own self-talk and your mindset that's the key to everything. And so let's talk about that too, because it's not like you just started doing these fitness competitions. Yeah, you're winning, but it's not like you just easily won 3 Miss Olympias. There was a lot of adversity for you to get those titles. And this is how you know someone really wants it bad enough. Like, who are you when shit goes wrong? Who are you when there's obstacles? Who are you when there's hardships? Just like in your personal life, it tells you and teaches you a lot about who you really are. Sometimes we don't even know what we're made of until we're put in those situations.
Yeah.
And you're like, damn, I'm stronger than I thought. Like, I'm more resilient than I thought. So let's talk about your first Olympia title and then the second and third. Like, how did those go? Just kind of share those experiences with us.
Well, and you're right. I think that's why you and I resonate so well, because we share so many of the same beliefs. And like, we've had those moments where it's like we can either crumble like everyone does, and like a majority, I should say, and where everyone expects us to just be for the rest of our lives, or we can redefine it. And so for me, one of the biggest things is we all need to have control. So, in your instance, when you were in jail, you didn't have control. Like, all your control was basically taken away from you, but not everything. You still had aspects of your life you could control. Same thing for me. So when my business was in trouble, my personal life and my family, husband, and kids was in trouble, and, again, my mom passing, none of that was within my control. So one thing that I always tell people is find ways to regain control of your life. For me, getting into these competitions, it wasn't again to win. It was a way to find something I could control positively in my life every day. So when I got on board with doing this, I was like, well, I don't know what I'm doing, but it's going to be fun. I can control how hard I work, how focused I am on getting to the end goal. And so, again, that was something for me when all these things are thrown at me in my life. And it's like, I've been hit with so many curveballs, right? But I can't control that. I can control how I respond, and I can control what I do in the moment. I sure as hell can control how I react to it. So in that aspect, it gives you a lot of control and power in your life that many people do not realize, nor do they give themselves credit for. So going into this, again, since I had no background in it, I've had a ton of injuries. So not all of them were part of the sport. But again, I'm a daredevil and I don't have any formal training. So people would say, hey, can you do this crazy flip? And it's like, well, there's only one way to find out. Not always did it work out. So my career path to get to my first Olympia included a lot of injuries, a lot of broken bones. To date, I've had 18 surgeries, believe it or not, lots of metal in my body. But on my road to my first Olympia, the year prior, so 9 months almost to the day that I won my first world championship, which was the Arnold Classic, 9 months prior, I had broke my neck. And I have a 12-piece metal cage that's still in my neck to put my neck back together. And that was, for me, again, another like propelling moment, because everyone said, oh, Whitney Jones, her career's over. She broke her neck. She's out. And I thought, wait a second. No, I want control of my career in this industry. I want control as an athlete. I'm not done. I didn't decide that. You guys are telling me that's it. That's not my choice. So it became my goal to get back on stage. Never did I think I'd never won the big competitions before, the Arnold and the Olympia, ever. So again, my goal wasn't to win. My goal was to get back on stage because I needed to provide hope. Like, I found that in my journey as an athlete, a lot of people started following my story because they'd see me break a bone. They'd see me, in a cast and I was still competing. And they're like, this chick's crazy. Like, sit down. And it's like, no, I'm having fun. I want to do it. If I get on stage and I'm in this cast, who cares? I'm going to make it part of my routine and use it as a prop. So I thought after this moment when I broke my neck, I'm getting back on stage. So it became my mission. And again, having that focus of, I want to show people that no matter how devastating an injury you have, even I'm in the spotlight, I've got all these eyes on me from all over the world. ready to be like, good job, you had a good career, and sad you broke your neck and you'll never be anything. I thought, I need to prove to everyone that I'm not done. And for anyone that has any type of injury, severe, minor, or whatever, you got to get back on the horse. You've got to try. So my goal was to get back on stage as best as I could, do the best routine I could. Because again, when you break your neck, you lose so much. Your muscles atrophy like crazy. It takes a very long time for your upper body to regain the strength. So what kind of push-up skills and handstands am I going to do when I'm 9 months out from a neck surgery? But I created a routine. 4 weeks before my Arnold competition, I was doing a flip because, of course, everything was lower body focused, and I blew my ACL, MCL, meniscus. I mean, it was destroyed. So my doctor's like, you got to have surgery. And I thought, okay, listen, I have to show up at this competition. Everyone thinks I'm full of shit. I mean, there was so much on social media and on these forums because I was posting on my social media platforms workouts, and they're like, this is fake. There is no way she's doing this. She'll never end up showing up at the Arnold Classic. These are old videos. So I told my doctor, I said, we're going to have to wait on the surgery. I have to show up at this competition. And he's like, you can't. Like, you broke your neck. You can't do anything upper body. You have one leg. You literally have one leg to do a routine. I said, yep. So nobody knew about the leg. This actually is documented in Generation Iron 3. So they documented this. So nobody knew I tore my ACL. Everyone knew about my neck. I had so much, I think, just grit and just fire because I wanted to prove everyone wrong. Everyone wanted me to not show up so they could say I was a fake and that I was trying to be ultra positive, but I was just full of shit. So I wanted to show up. But there was just something in me. I mean, how do you do a 2-minute routine with one leg? But I did. And I ended up fucking winning. And it was like, what the hell? I had a full-blown knee brace. I had to wear this 5-pound post-surgical knee brace because I couldn't walk without falling over. You know, when you tear your ACL really bad, there's zero stability. Couldn't jump, whatever. But I created this routine just thinking outside of the box with one leg to figure it out. And I won. And I won the physique round where they looked at you in your bathing suit. I won the routine round, and it was like, holy shit. So I get on stage for this interview with Arnold, and he's like, wow, oh my gosh, this is amazing. He looks down and he goes, what is that you're wearing? Is that part of your costume? And I said, no, I actually have a torn ACL. I'm flying home first thing tomorrow morning because I got to have surgery because I got to compete at the Olympia. And He's like, what the hell? Then I went to the Olympia 6 months later. Again, I still only have one good leg because, 6 months after ACL, MCL, and meniscus, your leg is not great. And I won my first Olympia. Yeah. So it's like, again, on paper, this should never happen. But if you just have that belief in yourself and you quiet all the noise, like all the stuff that was being thrown at me saying, you can't do this, you shouldn't do it, this is impossible, what are you trying to prove? You quiet all the noise and you're like, let me try. Let me just try. And I had so much belief in myself that there was no one who could tell me I couldn't. And it created this different drive and this different passion where it was like, you're right, I may not be able to be great on stage, but I'm going to show up. I will show up. What I end up performing, I have no idea. It's going to be a crapshoot, but I'll make it fun. I'll be as entertaining as possible within the realm that I can within the skills and the ability. But again, I wasn't focused on the win. Yeah. So it's just, it changes. You can only focus on the effort. You can only control what you put into it. And I didn't care about the outcome. I cared about showing up.
I love that. I mean, I heard someone say one time, you got to marry the process and divorce the outcome. Right. And I want to, because you just talked about focus. That's what you opened up that segment talking about. Like, honestly, though, Whitney, you embody, like, my podcast is Unstoppable Mindset. You embody everything about that. And I love it so much. I love hearing your story. The part about the focus is so key because I think most people focus on all the things outside of their control that they can't change or impact. and they neglect the things within their control. When I was in prison, I used to say the serenity prayer. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So being locked up taught me that. Like, I couldn't control other people's opinions. I couldn't control the weather, the government, the economy, but I can control my daily actions. I can control my self-talk. I can control, am I going to get up early? Am I going to go work out? Like, all those little things that most people know they should do and they neglect. And then they spend their time stressing out over all these things they can't control. Yeah. And when you just focus on the little things in front of you every day, and like you said earlier, you give your best effort to the process, all the bigger picture stuff works itself out one way or another. It always does. Yeah. So I love that, because I think we as human beings are always looking for control. And I think accidentally most human beings actually, they do it the wrong way. You know what I mean? They're trying to control things they can't control. Yeah. So that's an incredible story. So that's how you first got to meet Arnold. I saw that clip the other day when he was looking at you on stage. Yeah. As you were doing your routine. How cool is that? I mean, here's the guy who mainstream bodybuilding and one of the most influential people we've seen in our time. And he's giving you these accolades and stuff. Okay. So, I want to touch on something real quick too, because I think people who are listening to this go, yeah, but Whitney, like, you're different, you're special, you're amazing. Like, I still worry about what people think, or I'm still scared and that fear holds me back. What would you tell someone? Because like, you're a coach, right? We coach men and women. You have a really high level mindset. You have the accolades to prove who you are. But what would you tell just an average man or woman who says, yeah, but like the fear of failure, or the fear of making a change, or worrying about what other people think, like, I can't get over that. How would you coach them through that?
Well, to be honest, and this is something too, but like, you're never going to make everyone happy, right? But it's what you're saying is so true. So many people don't act or don't take action because they're worried about what others will think. They're worried about if they fail, how will they look? But at the end of the day, those people in your life probably 5 years ago that you worried about probably aren't in your life, right? It's an evolving process with where we are in life, who our friends are, where we live, who we're surrounded by. So some of the people in the moment of your life right now, you're probably never even going to talk about, but you're so worried about it. So you stop doing something that's in your heart that you want. But at the end of the day, you have to answer to yourself. So do you want to live with regret? Because who cares what all these other people think? If they think you're crazy, if they think you're amazing, if they think you're a lunatic, who cares? At the end of the day, you have to answer to yourself. So I always tell people, take a moment, step back and go, what do I want? If there's no barriers, if there's no negative noise, if there is nothing truly stopping you from doing XYZ, why aren't you doing it? And it's always them. So take yourself out of it.
I mean, people, they're always going to find a reason why they can't, right? Yeah. So like, you have two different types of people. One person's going to say, how can I? The other person's going to immediately go to the reasons they can't. So because I was just putting myself in the mind of a woman or man listening to this who feels stuck, and they're like, yeah, but I have to pay the bills, or yeah, but I got a family to provide for. We're not saying you have to change your life overnight. It's a decision, and then it's a follow through with action consistently over time. You can make a decision right now. You're like, I don't want to be here next year. I don't want to be the same person 5 years from now. It's that decision right there. And when you start thinking this way and you ask yourself every day, well, how can I change? How can I get out of this job? How can I improve my relationship? The answers start to appear over time. But if you say, oh, I can't because, well, you're just literally putting up a wall and you're never going to see a solution. So I think that's so important. Like, you got to want it. You got to know what's at stake if you don't make a change. Like, regret is the number one thing that drives me every day. I know and I feel the pain of my regrets from the past, and it drives me every day to never make a decision that I'm going to look back on and go, oh, I wish I didn't do that, or oh, I wish I made a change. Like, that pain is such a motivator, you know? Yeah. So, okay, thank you. This is really good. Now, I'm curious, did you win your next Olympia the following year? When did you win number 2 and number 3? And how'd those go? Did you have any adversity in those competitions as well?
Yeah, so I ended up winning the next year. So I went in and regained my title. Then so that was, I won 18, 19, 20.
Real quick, can I stop you? So you won 18, 19. What was the feedback from all the people that doubted you, or all the people in that industry, in the bodybuilding world, in the competitive world? Like, did you just become a superstar overnight, and were they very welcoming, or what was that like for you?
Yeah, I mean, there's still, of course, some haters. Like, there were some people that said her routine didn't have XYZ, like didn't have these tumbling passes. But then it's crazy how some of these doubters then come to your defense and they're like, well, she just broke her neck and she had a torn ACL. What do you expect? But she came out with all these crazy things. So I always just kind of take the high road. It takes a lot to get me to respond to anything negatively, honestly, because I'm like, I'm never going to convince you of whatever it is that you're trying to bring me down with. So it was interesting to see all these people, it's in your face and you so badly kind of want to be like, I told you so. But the proof was there. I showed up. So all these doubters that said there's no way, I don't care what you think now. I don't need you to come to my defense. I don't need you to praise me. I just want you to know I did what you said I couldn't. So maybe rethink next time you're trying to bring someone down. So it all works out. I always feel like if you take the high road, it all works out. But it's hard to do, right? Because there are those moments you just want to be try to kind of message any of these people and be like, what do you want to say now? But taking the high road was always the best for me. And then it was just like, look, I'm doing the best I can. You don't have to like me. I'm never going to get everyone to like me. And I'm absolutely fine with that. So it also creates kind of, again, sometimes negative attention where people were saying, she's not great. She didn't do XYZ. Brings to light, yeah, she's not everyone else. She is different. So it was interesting to see it all come out. Now, the one thing that was probably my most prized thing was winning the Olympia. And again, I didn't know this at the moment. The very next day, obviously it was like, holy crap, she ended up winning the Arnold. And then 6 months later, after she had surgery, she had it again. But then there were these articles saying she is the first mother in all of Olympia history, all categories, to ever win an Olympia title. And I thought, what? No way. Now, granted, a lot of people are younger, but for the women, there had never been a mom. And I thought, this is cool. So to me, that is like, I won an Olympia title. I'm the first mom ever to have done it. Now, since there have been a couple more since 2018, but it was like, this was a very unique opportunity to have this platform to say, look, you could be anything. Like, here I am, a mom, single mom at that, business owner. This is not the only thing I have to do. Whereas most athletes at the top, most top 5 Olympians, they don't work full time. They don't have kids. They have a spouse that literally is their partner in crime, helping do everything. And this is their life. That was not me. So again, I was far from the typical athlete in our sport. And more importantly, very different from any of the champions. But I thought this is the perfect platform to say, do not put a ceiling on or limit yourself. Like, if you have something you want to do it. And do it to the best of your ability. And you never know what's going to happen. So for me, that's what was really cool. And then, of course, going in, there was that pressure of, oh, can you do it again? But I don't let that pressure change me. I welcome it. Pressure is a privilege. That's a huge saying. And I think it's great. I had the opportunity to go in and defend my title. It was up to me if I completely shit the bed, but I wasn't going to. I was going to give it my all and go in with the same mindset. I'm not worrying about the outcome. I have this whole philosophy where you walk up the stairs, and before I ever hit the Olympia stage, I ask myself, did I win? And I have to be able to confidently answer yes or no. Now, with Olympia, I've always said yes. There have been other shows where I realized I didn't do everything I could. I failed myself. So the outcome didn't matter. The outcome to me was, before I step foot on that stage, I need to know, did I win or not? Now, what the judges said was going to be determined. But I decided before I ever stepped foot on stage if I won. And if I won, then I was like, I have nothing to lose. Now this is the icing on the cake. This is the fun part. There is no pressure. The pressure is every day doing what you're supposed to do to get to that day, to be at your best. And now this is just the fun.
Yeah, I love that attitude. I mean, it's true too. And it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Like the results are secondary, like the awards or the placement. It's you knowing in your heart that you gave your all. And that's integrity at the highest level, and that's something that I notice about ultra successful people is like the score is secondary. The result is secondary. They do it because they want to be that person so badly. And that's the key, whether you're a guy just wanting to get off the couch and lose weight, or I know you also work with a lot of women, and I've seen women who have had kids and kind of they just get stagnant because now they're mom and they're not, you know what I mean? And it's like, you have to have that driver inside of you where like, I want to look in the mirror and be my best self. And it doesn't matter, what you're going through, that you can make that change, but you have to have that feeling inside of you to motivate you. So I love that. And with the third one, you didn't touch on the third title. What was the third one like?
So I ended up, it was 18-19, 2020, I didn't win. So I lost my title. And, again, when you're at the top, there's only one place to go. Now, believe it or not, 2020 was my absolute favorite routine. I loved everything about it. And again, I went in, and to me, you asked me if I won. I absolutely won. To me, that was one of my greatest. Now, again, the judges didn't agree, but that's fine. But again, the best thing about that was everyone thought, oh, you're done. Again, you're done, right? And I'm like, no, why? Again, I'm not going out like this. This was not how I wanted it to end. And they're like, well, you lost your title. Like, you kind of just need to go away. And I'm like, I'm not afraid of losing my title. Like, again, when you're at the top, there's only one place, but I'm an athlete. I'm a competitor. I'm not done. And they're like, well, nobody comes back from being a champion, especially winning it twice, loses their title and ever regains it. It's only happened twice in the history of Olympia at that time. And I was like, oh, so you're saying it's been done. Well, watch, because I'm going to do it. And so, again, everyone thought, this is stupid. This is crazy. Randomly, though, 2020 was the one Olympia I went into without an injury. And so, I know. So it's like, what? So long story short, I go into 2021 and same mindset. I want to win, but I'm not focused on the outcome. I'm focused on getting there. So that year, the Olympia was in Florida. It's usually always in Vegas. And it was in Florida. I fly out there a week earlier. You got to do the press, whatever. I was doing my last run through there in the hotel. So this is 3 days prior to Olympia. And I had a freak accident because I'm practicing my routine in this small room. And I was doing this crazy one-footed gainer flip. And midair, I thought I was going to hit the wall. So I pulled out of the flip too early, came down on my knee, and it's like on the boardroom floors, like it's basically cement with a little bit of carpeting, and totally jacked my leg. Now, I didn't know it at the time. I thought I tore my knee, like ACL, or broke my kneecap or something. Well, I ended up breaking my leg. But at that point, I'm 3 days out from competition. The next day I have meet the Olympian. Like, it's this whole deal. So I thought, okay, well, what do you do? I have a broken leg. Again, I didn't know till I got home and got the x-ray, but I knew it was bad. I couldn't walk. It was swollen to like, it looked ridiculous, black and blue. But thankfully, I knew some great people that helped kind of bring stem unit, get the inflammation out, get the swelling out. And I just visualized a routine that I had to modify because I knew I couldn't do certain skills. But it was like, I wasn't concerned about it. I'm like, this is normal. I always got my back up against the wall. I said, watch, now I'm going to win because I've never competed with a broken leg, like an actual broken leg. But I'm like, this is pretty bad, but I know I'm going to be able to pull it out. And they're like, but you've never even practiced this routine. I'm like, it'll be fine. So at that point, I remember that afternoon after I hurt my leg, I said, there was only 4 people in my camp who knew about it. And I said, no one's going to speak about this anymore. Do not look at my leg. We're not acknowledging it. There's nothing we can do about it. So we're all going in. with the mindset that I'm perfectly healthy. So don't look at my leg. Don't ask me how it is. The only thing I want you to do is if I'm wobbling too much, like give me a clue. We had a word, like we'll figure it out to be like, Whit, watch your walk. It's looking pretty obvious. So we didn't acknowledge it. I don't want to give it power. So I kept visualizing my routine with the way I was making the changes. Show day came on. I got through walking in heels, believe it or not, without stumbling. But again, it's like you got to focus on what you can do. Don't focus on what you can't. I couldn't walk normal. So I wasn't focused on that. I'm like, I'm going to have so much swag in these heels. And that way, if I fell, I'd be like, okay, I got a little too excited. I was trying to bring so much flair. There was always this backup plan. Then it came to the routine, and I did have a friend who was a surgeon and just put some lidocaine in my knee so I couldn't feel it because I had 2 knee drops where you do a jump and you land on your knee. So my knee was still the problem, I thought, but it was actually my fibula I broke.
Gosh.
And I thought, you know what? I'm doing the routine. I've got 1 shot, 2 minutes. You can do anything for 2 minutes. So I'd put in all the work. I'm like, I'm not bowing out. I'm not giving up. And then I ended up with the win. And the routine didn't look that bad. Like, it's hard for me to watch it because that routine was legit. And some of the stuff I had to take out was going to like blow people's mind. But again, like people didn't know I had a broken leg. And I didn't announce it on stage or anything. It ended up somehow it got like publicized like 2 weeks after. And I still to this day don't know how they found out. But I wasn't planning to like bring attention to it because I won. And it was like, well, it is what it is. But yeah, once the story kind of got busted, I then kind of was like, yep, this is what happened. But you don't give it power. You don't focus on what you can't do. You only focus on what you can. And that's how you regain control.
Yeah, that's incredible. Like literally this was like a master class on the ultimate mindset to achieve at the highest level, right? Because I just think so many people don't achieve success in life because they sabotage themselves. They quit and give up. They start thinking differently. Your thoughts are so powerful. And what you're saying is like the ultimate form of self-belief. Focus on what I can do and eliminate any other options or possibilities in your mind. That's so key. Is like whatever you focus on gets your energy and attention. And if you're focusing on the fact that your leg's busted and, oh, I'm not going to be able to do this routine, I'm not going to feel the same, the judges are going to know I'm not going to win, what am I doing? It would have compromised your performance out there. But I love so much how, you hear the term like delusionally optimistic, like successful. It's true. Like I'm like that too. I'm so delusionally optimistic. Like people get mad at me, they're like, come on, dude, that can't happen. Or aren't you mad at this situation? Like you should be more mad at the situation. I'm like, yeah, I'm aware of what's going on, but I'm thinking that it's going to all turn out fine. Big picture, that's what we do. So I love that so much. I want to wrap this up. I want to end with just asking you a couple questions. Again, what would you say to someone right now who feels stuck in life? Like you said it earlier, but it's really important that anybody who's watched the episode this long and they understand what you've gone through, the fact that you're, at the core, just a self-driven, motivated individual. You're a family woman. Like you just have immense belief in yourself. What would you tell somebody who wants to make a change now and they just don't believe in themselves? Where do they got to start? Like, what do they got to do today?
Because let's be real, like depression is a real thing. And I hate when people minimize it and say, you're depressed, just stop being depressed. And it's like, that's not easy, and I'm not a therapist, not a counselor. But what I can say is there's so many times when you feel stuck or you feel like you're not succeeding at anything, or you have nothing to be excited about or grateful for. Quit trying to do the same stuff that you keep doing in your life. Do something completely opposite. Again, if this is like, say you're like, I'm going to go sign up for boxing classes. Well, you've never done it. Cool. Guess what? You may find that this is something that allows you to feel good about something. Because why? You've never done it. So there are zero expectations. You could be horrible in the beginning. Everyone's horrible in the beginning when they start something. So all you can do is be proud that you're trying something new. You may get new friends. You may open up a new path to your life. For me not bowing down when someone said I could never do this sport opened up this huge opportunity of my lifetime. If I would have said no, who knows where I'd be, right? But do something that is opposite or that is completely new, because it's going to elicit new emotions and new feelings. I feel like when people are stuck, they're trying too hard to improve the existing things in their life. And that's hard because they're bad for a reason. So completely do something opposite. Maybe become friends with new people, associate with new coworkers at your job, whatever you're doing. Try things that are completely opposite of what you're doing. And a lot of times, one minor change is the catalyst to help take a bigger step to dig you out of that hole. And then you may have a good day at boxing class or at, doing a book club with a bunch of women, something that you may think, I will never enjoy this. But then all of a sudden you do. And maybe it's not that you enjoy books. Maybe you enjoy the friendship of the girl you're sitting next to. And now you feel like you have a friend. So I always encourage people to try something they've never done and to try more than one thing, because you need new emotions within your body. You need new feelings. You need new endorphins that are released. But you can't do that by trying to just improve everything within your current box of your life. You've got to step outside. And it seems the people that I've seen actually do this, that is where their life starts to improve.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, there's 3 ways you reprogram your brain, repetition, novel experiences like you're talking about, and traumatic, impactful experiences. So novel experiences, that's like just being open-minded and willing to try something new. And honestly, it works. Like it does. It changes the way you feel. It changes your brain chemistry. The more that you get out of your comfort zone and you're open-minded like that. So that's great input. And you strike me as someone that's just willing to try things, right? And that's probably why it's such good advice from you, because look what it's done in your life.
Yeah.
So I'm curious. Another question. Do you have anything spontaneous or something different or a change or something you've been wanting to do personally, but you haven't pulled the trigger on it?
Well, yes. So I try to do something new every year that's just like, what is she thinking? And so last year it was, I'm going to learn to play guitar, which I'm not great, but I love it. And it's great for that mind muscle connection. And I've had 9 concussions, so my brain likes to be cattywampus. So it's actually a part of neurotraining too. But that was one thing. And so one of the things this year that I thought about last year, and now I'm like, okay, I need to think of something different. But I wanted to get my pilot's license, but my eyes aren't great. So apparently that is a big hindrance, which I understand. Now, granted, I wasn't going to try to be a commercial pilot, but that's what I was thinking. And then I finally sat down and talked to a guy who is a pilot, and he's like, with your eyes, you're not going to be there. You're not going to be allowed to. And I'm like, really? So I need to put that back into it. But again, like I always try to do something new. This year, I think I shared with you, Sean, I started doing jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai. Totally new. I love it. So that's kind of my thing this year that I tried to do new. And then I always will continue it. So I have started those 2 things, but since being a pilot is probably not going to happen, I want to create something new, but I'm not sure what that 3rd thing is yet.
Okay, well, I love that. Being a pilot would have been really cool. I mean, you have a beautiful area there in Arizona. You could fly around. You have Lake Powell in that area, right? Isn't Lake Powell? Yeah. So
tons of lakes.
But the jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai, like that's the thing is, how do you stay young? You keep like exploring life. A lot of people, they get to a certain age and I feel like they just quit and give up. They're like, this is the way things are going to be. I'm a mom or a dad. I got, I'm married. I got a 9 to 5. I got my 401k. I'm just going to do this until I retire. And it's like your whole life passes you by and they're waiting for retirement to start living again. The key is to do what you're talking about and try as many new things as possible. Be that yes man or that yes woman in your life. And that's where like excitement and joy and happiness come from. It's really living. So honestly, this interview right here is super inspiring. I want the whole world to see this because, learning about your trajectory to where you're at now, it's super exciting. And it's so, it's inspiring for anyone listening to know like, hey, number one, you can decide at any time to redefine yourself. You can, on a dare, become a world-class athlete, a 3-time Miss Olympia. No one's ever done it as a mother, like break world records. You can just create future opportunities for yourself that never would have existed by being open-minded and believing in yourself and having courage, And so I want to thank you for being here, Whitney. For those of you listening, like Whitney and I are friends, we're business partners. We're on a mission to change the world for the better. We created Unstoppable 365 for a reason, to do that. And so there's so many men and women out there that if they listen to this episode, if they join us and come and be a part of our network and communities, like, we will help them to create that spark within themselves so they can grow, so they can experience life, so they can become someone they're proud of and do things that make them excited. That's my mission. It's like, I want everyone to feel alive and to do things that they look back on one day and have immense gratitude and pride for, not regret. And that's something you touched on. So any final words, Whitney, before we wrap up this interview?
No, I mean, I appreciate you having me on. It's so fun. I mean, I'm highly encouraged and inspired by your own story. And I think it's great. We always need to have that where it's like, oh, wow. People are so incredible with the stories that they have and why they got from this point to where they're at now. So, being able to be in a partnership with you and grow a business and help others is something that's near and dear to my heart, as I know it is to yours, and love what we are building. So obviously we're very excited to help anyone and everyone who has that desire to level up, be unstoppable, master that mindset to truly like push and be the best version of yourself. But just don't give up. I mean, think out of the box. Don't put limitations, quiet the noise. And if you don't have that around you, then get involved with people like us who will absolutely bring it out of you. Or if you're not sure how to bring it out of you, that's where we're the masters at it. This is what we do for a living, and we are happy to help you. Our tribe is intense and passionate, and we've got a world of people all ready to help you be the best version with no regrets in life.
100%. I mean, you gave away the blueprint for personal success. So if everyone listening to this just does what Whitney said, you'll be fine. But 9 out of 10 people don't, because there's uncertainty. They don't believe in themselves. You need to be around people who are doing it so that you can actually experience what that's like and get the push that you need. That's why we became coaches, because we want to see everyone thriving, and we want to provide the tools, the guidance, and the resources for them to get there. So Whitney Jones, you guys obviously look her up. We're going to post all your social media handles, all the links to reach out to you in the description of this episode. But make sure you're following her. I mean, on Instagram, what is it? It's at Whitney Jones, or what is your Instagram handle?
It's at Whitney Jones _IFBB Pro.
Yeah, and we'll post it in the notes description, the description right here. But again, Whitney, thank you so much. I appreciate your time. Thank you for the message today, and let's keep changing the world together.
Works for me. Let's do it.